So this entitled mom thinks she can just pressure me into selling my property to fund her daughter's college. And guess what? She pulls this stunt after I said no. Unbelievable. I'm a 34-year-old property owner with several houses registered under my name in my hometown. This is the result of years of dedication, smart choices, and the sacrifices that were necessary throughout the journey. For some background, I grew up in a humble household. My folks were both hardworking folks who put in the grind to make sure me and my siblings had a decent life. They had always envisioned having their own place someday, but it felt like a distant dream. Their upbringing sparked my ambition and drove my determination to create a better life for myself and my family someday. I met my wife back in college, and she had some similar family experiences to mine. Growing up with a single mom juggling several jobs to keep things afloat, she picked up on the importance of being smart with money and making the most out of what she had. We both aimed to tackle our financial challenges eventually and build a secure future for our kids. My wife and I have been grinding away at buying and flipping houses for years now. We pinched every penny and made strategic moves that ultimately resulted in us owning multiple properties. Every property stood as a testament to years of dedication, endless sacrifices, and a collective aspiration we held dear. Today, I'm a proud dad of two amazing kids, a son and a daughter. Our properties aren't just about making money, they're a testament to our commitment to building a better future for our kids. What I didn't see coming was a sudden turn in my life, all because of an entitled woman named Karen 40F, who has been renting from me for a few years now. She lives in a cozy 3-bedroom house that I diligently saved up for and bought years back, long before I tied the knot with my wife. The property is situated in a top-notch area of the city, just a stone's throw away from her daughter's high school. Karen found herself navigating life as a single mother after her husband left her unexpectedly following the birth of their daughter. Once I learned about her situation, I stepped up and offered her a reduced rent to help her settle in. Even though I was aware that I would be sacrificing some cash, my priority was to ensure that she and her daughter could afford to stay there. I've kept the rent steady all these years, never raising it at all. Karen was always a dependable tenant, consistently paying her rent on time throughout the years. Over time, we built a pretty laid-back landlord-tenant vibe, and there were moments when we'd check in with each other, especially when she needed a hand with things around the house. Her daughter was in her final year of high school and getting ready to submit college applications. 3 months back, Karen shared the exciting news that her daughter got accepted into a top-tier out-of-state university, which is a huge accomplishment for any high school grad. Unfortunately, this university came with a hefty price tag, and her scholarship barely made a dent, covering less than 10% of her fees. I was aware of the financial hurdles that come with higher education and had my doubts about how they would handle it. So there was this one time when Karen hit me up to hang out. I figured it was related to the renovations needed around the house, so I went along with it pretty easily. We settled into the living room, and she kicked things off by expressing her gratitude for my generosity regarding the rent. She kept going on about how much she wanted her daughter Grace to go to her dream university. But after running the numbers, tuition, housing, and all those extra costs, she came to the tough conclusion that it was just too much for her to manage by herself. She had even contacted financial aid, explored scholarship options, and picked up a part-time job on top of her full-time one, but it still wasn't sufficient. I nodded my head seriously, sensing that she might be about to ask if she could postpone the rent payment for the month, which would totally make sense. Instead, Karen hit me with a jaw-dropping request that totally caught me off guard. She wanted to know if I could sell the place she was living in. I raised an eyebrow as she went on about how the property I owned and had rented to her could bring in a nice sum, which would be a big help for her daughter's college tuition. "Are you for real?" I replied, feeling a blend of shock and skepticism. "Are you seriously asking me to sell my property just to cover your daughter's college tuition?" Karen's eyes were filled with desperation as she argued that this was her last chance to ensure her daughter's future. She said she had already gotten the whole property appraised and was sure it could cover her daughter's full college fees. I straight up asked her if she had lost her mind, because there was absolutely no way I was selling my property just so her daughter could attend some fancy university. I explained to her that this house holds a special significance for me, and I wasn't about to just sell my property without a second thought. Karen kept pushing, saying I could lend the cash and her daughter would reimburse me after graduation. Even though I understood how crucial a college education is, there was no way I was going to agree to her ridiculous demand. Listening to her desperate request showed just how far she was willing to go to support her daughter's aspirations, even if it involved making a wild suggestion to someone she didn't know. I laid it out for Karen, letting her know that the property was crucial to my livelihood, and I just couldn't let it go that easily. I shouldn't be the one responsible for covering my daughter's tuition. I suggested that if she was struggling to cover her daughter's university expenses, reaching out to family for support or exploring more budget-friendly alternatives could be a good move. Even after I tried to explain my side, Karen just wouldn't let it go. She kept insisting that I was the only one who could help her out and that selling my property and handing over the cash wasn't a big deal at all. I came to the conclusion that this was just a dead end. I walked away after telling Karen to never bring this up with me again. I asked her to see how ridiculous she sounded and suggested she consider a different approach. I figured she'd come to see her error sooner or later. But in the weeks that followed, Karen kept pushing forward. As Karen's daughter approached her college journey, the situation was becoming more and more unbearable. Karen, even though I tried to brush it off, wouldn't stop bugging me daily to sell my property ASAP, and even went as far as to stop paying her rent to make a point. Our previously friendly relationship had turned bitter. The tension between us escalated as Karen held firmly to her conviction that my property was the answer to her financial struggles. She totally believed that my no was just selfish and that it was risking her daughter's future. On the flip side, I was missing out on cash when she decided to withhold her rent as a form of protest. I told her straight up that I'd be taking this to court since we had a solid agreement, but she just wouldn't listen, and it became obvious that her demands were never going to stop. The moment things shifted was when Karen began bringing others into our argument. She began to reach out to my friends and the neighbors nearby, portraying me as a heartless landlord who wouldn't lend a hand to a young girl chasing her dreams. She claimed I was loaded, but I wasn't about to lend her any cash. Considering her situation as a single mom trying to get by, her story really struck a chord with those she opened up to. To rally support for her cause, Karen turned to social media and crafted a Facebook post, laying the responsibility for her daughter's college situation directly at my feet. Before long, whispers began to spread around our neighborhood. Folks felt for her situation and figured I was totally able to lend a hand, but was just choosing not to. I really felt like I didn't belong in my own community. My wife finally took the plunge and contacted Karen to tackle the growing tension. With the tension in the neighborhood rising, she thought that talking things out could be a way to find a solution. Karen, on the other hand, was definitely not feeling up for a chill conversation. She went off on a rant about how I, as the landlord, had the ability to sell the property, insisting that it was the only way to ensure her daughter's future. Even with my wife's genuine efforts to make sense of things, Karen stood firm in her beliefs. She claimed that we were obligated to finance her daughter's college education and accused us of being selfish. The discussion went in circles, with Karen constantly urging my wife to persuade me to comply with her requests. Her post portrayed me as a heartless and affluent landlord who was denying a young girl the chance to pursue her dreams, and it definitely stirred up reactions among the neighbors in the local community. Some neighbors who used to be cool with us began to look at us with a bit of doubt. They started to think that I really had the ability to help her daughter with her financial struggles, but that I was intentionally choosing not to out of pure selfishness. People who knew about my background, the effort I put in, and the truth of my circumstances totally understood where I was coming from and were equally shocked by Karen's bold request for me to cover the costs. They pointed out that I had to safeguard my assets and uphold the legacy I worked so hard to create. The community was getting increasingly split, with a growing amount of sympathy aimed at Karen. Even with all the pressure piling up, I held firm, determined to defend what's mine. I put in years of effort and sacrifice to achieve it, and there was no way I was going to let it go easily. Meanwhile, Karen kept stoking the fire, claiming I was devoid of empathy and taking advantage of living in my place without paying rent. Her posts started to get more and more expressive, highlighting her daughter's grit and all the sacrifices she had made in the lead up to college. The argument blew up from a personal spat to a full-on public discussion. The burden of the accusations began to take a toll on my family too. My kids started facing bullying at school, with their classmates repeating the false claims they picked up from social media about me. Seeing the pain this situation brought them was truly gut-wrenching. That's when I realized it was time to make a move. I stayed silent, hoping Karen would get the hint and back off. But now that my kids were getting caught up in this, I knew it was time to speak up and protect my reputation. I contacted a lawyer who focuses on property disputes and issues between tenants and landlords. We quickly put together a cease and desist letter to stop Karen's defamatory behavior and safeguard my reputation in the community. My lawyer told me that the cease and desist letter is just the beginning of our legal fight. And if Karen doesn't back off, we're ready to go all the way to court. When Karen got the letter, she was totally taken aback. She tried to call me, but I decided to ignore her calls. She hit me up with a message saying she wants to chat and sort things out before it gets out of hand. She said it was all just a big mix-up and that we could sort it out together. I responded, letting her know that I'm planning to take legal action. I warned her to get ready and have fun because she was about to regret ever crossing me. This is definitely going to be a tough battle. This woman just won't let up, constantly pushing for me to cover her daughter's tuition and tarnishing our family's reputation, both in the community and online. My lawyer is getting everything ready for the case, just in case it goes to trial if she doesn't back down. We're outlining all the false accusations and the damage she's done to us over the past few months. When a few of my relatives discovered that I was planning to take her to court, they recommended that I should consider giving her an opportunity to resolve the situation, especially since she is a single mother doing her best for her child. So am I the a-hole for refusing to sell my property to pay the entitled mother her daughter's college fees and instead dragging her to court? Update 1. Karen has hit back at our legal action with her own letter, packed with threats and additional defamation. She's called me out for setting the rent too high, claiming that I'm aware of her financial struggles, which she says prevents her from saving for her daughter's education. I can't believe the lengths she'll go to just to get her way. It's honestly ridiculous. It's really annoying to watch her act like the victim when I've already helped her out with subsidized rent. Her accusations just don't hold any weight. It's obvious she's trying to twist things to benefit herself, and I'm definitely not going to let that slide. It's obvious that Karen isn't going to give up easily. My lawyer, Mr. Carter, is confident that we have a solid case since her accusations are unfounded, but he has warned me to brace myself for a lengthy and exhausting legal journey. This situation really escalated in no time, huh? I never thought I'd find myself in a courtroom, particularly not with someone who used to rent from me. But there are moments when you need to hold your position and defend what truly belongs to you. Karen may have her own motives, but I won't let her push me into selling my property. I'm fully committed to securing my family's future, and I won't back down, regardless of the obstacles ahead. I'll keep you posted when the legal stuff kicks off. Update 2. Since my last update, the legal proceedings have officially kicked off. The anticipation leading up to the court date was brutal, and the courtroom was filled with tension as both sides laid out their arguments and evidence. Karen, standing alongside her lawyer, presented herself as a devoted mother, fighting hard to ensure a bright future for her daughter. Her lawyer really drove home the struggles they faced, highlighting how my property was the final hope for her daughter's aspirations of going to that elite university far away. Karen's testimony was filled with raw emotion, her eyes brimming with tears as she recounted the sacrifices she made as a single mother, the countless hours she put in, and her steadfast dedication to her daughter's success. She shared her ongoing struggles with job hunting and the countless applications she submitted for scholarships and financial aid, portraying herself as a mother who had exhausted every possible avenue. During the whole process, Karen's lawyer kept portraying me as this rich, heartless landlord who cared more about making money than supporting a young girl's aspirations by demanding high rent from her. They suggested that I knew about Karen's financial issues, but still took advantage of her circumstances. But the most mind-blowing twist in the tale happened when Karen brought in a friend. It was totally surprising when this friend said they saw a conversation between Karen and me, where I supposedly promised to sell the property to pay for her daughter's college tuition. I couldn't believe my eyes when this obvious lie was thrown out in the courtroom. My lawyer, Mr. Carter, totally pushed back on this claim, insisting that no conversation like that ever happened. He opted for a more systematic strategy to debunk the witness's assertion. Initially, my lawyer meticulously questioned the family friend who had given testimony regarding the discussion I had with Karen. He threw out a bunch of detailed questions to really dig into whether the witness's memory was legit. Mr. Carter inquired about the date, time, and place of the alleged conversation, aiming to uncover any inconsistencies or gaps in the memory of the events. The family friend had a tough time keeping their story straight and couldn't come up with any solid proof, like texts or emails, to back up what they were saying. Their statements started to falter more and more as they faced the intense questioning. To really shake up Karen's case, Mr. Carter dropped some evidence that completely went against her claims by showing off text messages and emails exchanged between Karen and me from the time when the supposed promise was made. It's pretty clear from these messages that the idea of selling the property to pay for her daughter's education was never brought up. Karen is the only one pushing me to sell my property to lend her the cash. We also had a neighbor living next to Karen's place come forward to say that Karen was paying lower rent compared to all the other tenants around. My lawyer gathered evidence from other tenants in the area to back this up. Mr. Carter pointed out that the lack of any written or electronic proof about the promise Karen is talking about, along with what the neighbor said, really throws shade on the family-friend story, making it hard to consider it as solid evidence. We then concentrated on demonstrating that Karen had deliberately taken extensive measures to tarnish my reputation online, which ultimately led to the harassment of my children. My lawyer put together a detailed collection of Karen's social media posts and messages where she claimed I was a cold and unfeeling landlord who wouldn't back her daughter's aspirations. These posts were packed with emotional manipulation and blatant inaccuracies aimed at garnering sympathy and backing from the crowd. We pointed out that these posts were deliberately designed to shape a story that portrayed her as a devoted mother fighting for her daughter's future, while in truth, she was emotionally manipulating me into selling my property. Mr. Carter shared some screenshots showcasing social media comments and direct messages from people who interacted with Karen's posts. A few of these people were from the neighborhood and had developed a bad impression of me due to the misleading info shared by Karen. Some people were really sympathetic to her situation, while others were quick to accuse me of being a heartless landlord taking advantage of her. Along with the social media evidence we provided, we also had testimonies from my kids who witnessed the bullying my children faced at school because of Karen's posts online. They shared how their peers had repeated the misleading information they encountered online about their dad, resulting in bullying and insults. My lawyer pointed out that there was a clear link between Karen's misleading claims online and the harassment my kids faced. The totally deceptive story she spun didn't just ruin my reputation, it also hit my family's well-being hard. This presentation of evidence clearly illustrated how Karen's behavior online resulted in tangible repercussions for my kids. As the legal drama unfolds, I'm pretty sure that justice will come through in the end. The evidence that's come to light really highlights the truth and debunks the false claims thrown my way. I think the court will recognize the manipulation at play and make sure there's a fair outcome in this case. Update 3. We did it. The last month has been a tough ride because of the legal battles. It's been a wild ride, full of surprises and unexpected turns. My lawyer kept laying out evidence and testimonies, making it more and more obvious that Karen's claims didn't hold water. Her effort to twist the narrative by bringing in a family friend who lied about a promise I never made completely unraveled when examined closely. Seriously, the absence of solid proof and the mixed-up stories from the witnesses really make you question those claims. After going through all the evidence and testimonies, the judge finally dropped the verdict and ruled in my favor. I was honestly so relieved by this outcome, and I really appreciated that the judge was able to see past all the unfounded accusations. Karen got hit with a defamation verdict and now has to cough up damages for the damage she did to my reputation. This includes covering the rent for the past months, along with some extra fines. The judge also issued a restraining order, stopping Karen from making any more defamatory comments about me or my family. This decision totally backed me up and confirmed my right to defend my stuff. As the legal drama wrapped up, I caught a glimpse of Karen next to her lawyer, and she looked utterly defeated. I glanced over at her daughter, Grace, and couldn't help but feel that her aspirations had been overshadowed by her mother's self-importance. This nightmare was finally wrapping up with justice being delivered. This served as a reminder for all of us about the necessity of standing our ground and not allowing the bold requests of others to undermine our fundamental values. I'm feeling pretty confident now, knowing that my home and our way of life are safe and sound. I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone who's been there for me on this journey. Your support means the world. The mental pressure and struggles my family and I faced were intense, but in the end, the truth came out on top. Update 4. It's been 6 months since I last shared anything. After winning in court, Karen is now pretty much silenced by the restraining order, and the damages she had to cough up for defamation gave me a bit of peace regarding the damage to my reputation. So Karen and her daughter had to pack up and leave after I served them the eviction notice. Even though things were still tough for them, I realized that I wasn't responsible for their situation anymore. I couldn't help but feel a bit sorry for her daughter missing out on educational chances. But honestly, her mom's bold ask really put their family in a tough spot. Karen had to remove her defamatory posts from social media due to the court's decision, and it didn't take long for everyone to uncover the full scope of her deceit. The most recent update I got was when Grace, her daughter, unexpectedly contacted me to apologize. Grace was such a wonderful kid, and I really enjoyed watching her grow up. But when her mother began making false accusations against me, I decided to sever ties with them. I was really taken aback that she reached out to me after her mom lost the case in such a public way. She expressed real regret about her mother's actions and the fallout that had impacted their family. She thanked us for being patient and understanding throughout the situation, acknowledging that her mother's actions had negatively impacted both our families. She mentioned that they moved to a cheaper place and that she chose to go to a nearby college to further her studies. She told me she had a chat with her mom after the legal stuff wrapped up, asking her to chill out, saying she was set on carving out her own path without making any bold requests. I really felt for her having to deal with all that at such a young age because of her mom's ridiculous claims. I mentioned that everyone should get a second shot, and I thought it was really commendable that she was stepping up to shape her own future. I told her good luck with her studies and made it clear that what happened before is in the past. With Karen and her daughter no longer on my property, things have finally settled into a new routine. The burden of the unfounded claims and the harassment our kids endured before has finally been removed. We stepped up and contacted our kids' school to tackle the bullying they experienced.